Okay, so good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Tautvydas Vencius. I am PhD student of sociology and also lecturer in social policy department in Vilnius University. So today I have a great pleasure to introduce our session, Social Policy and Welfare. Thank you very much for joining us online and here in our Faculty of Philosophy. And in this session, we will have 5 presentations. We should have 5 presentations. So our speakers represents different countries and different institutions from Finland, Poland, Kosovo, Portugal, and Germany. So it means that we will have the opportunity to get to know and discuss various social policy challenges across all the Europe. So my suggestion would be to allocate about 25 minutes for each presentation. So it means that a little bit less than 15 minutes to present and about 10 minutes to ask questions and answer them or just to discuss. So is this suitable for everyone, for our online presenters? Okay. Thank you. Very good. And before we start, I would like to also to inform you that we are recording our session and the record will be shared in social networks and our faculty page. And for those who join us online, you can also write your comments and questions in chat. That's all about general things from my side. So now I have a pleasure to introduce our first presenter. I'm very happy that she is here in our Faculty of Philosophy in Vilnius. And Päivi Helena Martinheva, Humak University of Applied Sciences, University of Helsinki. And her presentation, Exploring Theories of Social Policy Change in the Context of COVID-19, a Comparative Study. So, please take the floor. Yeah, Päivi, you would like to be here? Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yes, great. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. I'm very pleased to talk about our previous sub-studies in comparative welfare studies that we have done. And now I try to change perspective and examine different theoretical perspectives and reflect our empirical evidence, but what we have gone in lately in COVID-19 context. Not changing. A moment. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Just to brief introductions to the methodology, we applied a postmodern version of Hegelian dialectics. It means that these theoretical perspectives are understood as a thesis, as an ideal type of theories, and we reflect with these theories through the studies we have made lately. So that we call the antithesis pole, and then try to find some kind of synthetic and interpretation from these studies. But this is still a draft paper, so I'm very pleased to hear your comments and suggestions as well. You can find these sub-studies also in reference list and take a closer look if you want. And we used a different kind of theoretical approaches, which mainly were path dependence theory that thinks about that the continuity of the pandemic policies and welfare state, it's more obvious than change. It thinks that because things, systems and social security and services are developed for a long time, it's not so easy to change those. But then there is also perspective that thinks that social policy change happens with the different types of change. It can be very sudden, but it can also be very incremental. You don't even notice when the measures have actually changed. And then particularly because of the criticism towards a very determinative path dependence thesis, quite many scholars have been paid attention to the path creation processes lately. It means that you can, for example, in COVID-19 period, to look at measures, how they develop, how they change eligibility criteria, length of the benefits, for example, and get more into the analysis with that perspective. Also, question of continuity can be measured with that. Then we had welfare regime theory, ideal type of welfare regime theory. It was based on our studies. We chose these welfare state studies based on regime theory and based our studies for 13 different welfare states, and one study included all OECD states in general. And it thinks that the welfare regime matters for changes and quality of the changes. Then we had one maybe a bit more contemporary perspective for social change is a capability theory that I has also applied in my PhD work. And it thinks that what is the role of the welfare state is that welfare state should enhance people's opportunity and possibilities, and also make positive transitions through the crisis or diverse life situation, and give positive horizons as well. And these were the perspectives that were applied and now also reflected through the empirical study. Then to the results and the conclusions, what we can say so far. First of all, we can say that the most, in quantitative terms, the most of the measures, there were over 200 changes to social protection during the pandemic already in the first year. Were more relying on path dependence than introducing new instruments. And but it was also interesting that some of the countries introduced also new instruments to tackle COVID-19, and especially we were interested about these novel direct payments that were going beyond the current social risk pooling categories, what are very typical in diverse welfare states. Then about the continuity and the interruptions, expanding social security was very obvious already after 1 year. The most of the welfare state continued these measures, but when we become to the summer 2022, almost all measures were disappeared or ended or interrupted. There were any more few exceptions, for example, in Germany and Great Britain, the layoff system there, and in the training system in Norway, just to give few examples. So basically the most welfare state returning to the pre-pandemic policies quite soon in overall. What about what welfare regimes? Did they matter? We can say that we did one scoping review and also focused these questions in our interpretations in our sub-studies, and thematically these responses were quite similar from one country to another. They focus mainly to the working age people, to the families, to the help people in case of COVID-19 infections. But then we also find some differences, and for example, in Nordic countries compared to Mediterranean welfare regime states, Italy and Spain, the responses were diverse. But there were much more differentiation in middle of Europe, in continental Europe, and particularly also in liberal welfare state countries, United States and United Kingdom. Then we also looked about the mitigation and prevention. And when we think about that, it was we were in the middle of crisis, and the governments had to do the decisions very quickly. It was a bit surprising that the most of the measures in quantitative terms were more preventive than mitigative. So welfare state paid attention to the preventive measures to save the jobs, to help youth people in education, and also introducing these new measures, and that was remarkable as well. Then finally, some preliminary conclusions. My research question of which theoretical approach is the best explaining these changes wasn't very good, because all the theoretical approaches are focusing a bit differently. I have one figure that try to sum up these conclusions. So they are not exclusive to each other. But if we use these theoretical considerations, it has to have some kind of analytical tool. So it has to be operationalized methodologically to use those. Even without that, it's quite descriptive. So it's very important. So I can conclude that the welfare regime theory explains some changes, but there was also a lot of similarities between these. But the path depends theory, it has two poles. It also explains the change. It was good analyzing. We used the Peter Hall's distinction between first and second and third order changes, and understood that the first and second one was following the pre-pandemic policies, and then we differentiated these new responses, and I think it worked quite well with the perspective of path creation that pays attention to the continuity of the measures, that we can also follow these measures in a long run. And it was very interesting that we also found some new instruments that were introduced. We also compared these with the universal basic income features, because we wanted to look if these measures have commonalities and founded, for example, in ASEAN regime countries, Japan and South Korea were quite near having periodical payments for people in there. So I've done with my time at the moment. Just to conclude, just the final conclusion is that when we think about that, these changes did in quantitative terms continue so much, but I think these changes can be interpreted as a gaps of current social protection system and social security system that has to be somehow to be dealt and get a sustainable solution in near future. One of the question is the different types of employment and the precarious situation. For example, it has raised question in many welfare states, but there is also a willingness to find a new solution for social security as well. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, so thank you very much, Päivi. You are perfect on time, of course. And now I would like to ask our audience online or here about the questions. We have some time for them.
May I ask?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Yes, of course, dear Lemutia, we hear you.
Yeah. Thank you for very interesting presentation. I have more clarification question from the presentation. Maybe we can guess, but can you explain a little bit more about what particular indicators was used when you evaluated all these social policy changes? Maybe types of indicators, what were the sources of indicators? Thank you.
Data was collected mainly from domestic sources, from government open documents and from parliament's documents, and secondary we used also different open databases for these measures to collect those, and those have been published in working paper that was published in Ministry of Health and Social Affairs in Finland. But it was just the beginning. Then we had the sub-studies and we analyzed those all made differently and made also diverse follow-ups for the measures, what has happened. But and use also statistics as well. But we had a categorization. We started with understanding of social risks as a traditional and also somehow impressing the new social risk. Traditional social risks were like unemployment protections and sickness, for example. And then we had the new ones, for example, housing support and support for over-debtedness that are, for example, examples that has not been included for the measures during the previous economic crisis, so it was a bit newer. We had 10 categories we started, and then we had this, one of these categories was open in a way that it included these novel direct payments that were beyond of these categorizations. And we think that this is interesting because we think about that the life is changing the paths, life paths are differentiated much more than in traditional modern welfare states, and how far we can categorize these different social risks in societies. And this was interesting that how we can have some kind of income or income contribution that goes beyond this. And that's one of the issue in our forthcoming article that we have studied so far. Hopefully I answered to your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe one more question do we have? I think no. Yes. So thank you very much, dear Päivi, for your presentation, for short discussion. And now let's turn to our online part. And I just wondering if we have here Bogusława Urbaniak from Poland. I can see her in our teams. No. And what about Besnik Fetahu? Also University of Prishtina. It seems that they are absent today. Yes, and Luisa. Luisa is here. Okay, so let's turn to you now and to Portugal. Yes.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well. And should I your slides put on our screen?
No, I can share my screen because I made some little changes. If it's okay for you.
Okay.
Okay, let's try. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Because now I can't see you actually, but okay.
Yes, you can do it bigger slides. Yeah. Yes.
No problem. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm presenting this communication regarding the challenges and dilemmas faced by labor market integration support providers in Portugal. It's an empirical communication and also, of course, with a theoretical framework. But it's a small part of a bigger investigation research. So let's do it. So the theoretical framework starts from these points of some marks that are important to frame what we are studying. So the idea is to connect the work activity and the social inclusion. It's a topic that it's widely studied by different kinds of researchers. And this right to a decent work that is now very much more in the international and national priorities is the starting point for this presentation and this work. And also the paradigm of diversity management. So now in the HR management and also development, we are starting from some years now to talk about the relevance of diversity and inclusion. So also to have diverse teams, what is important to have this diverse team. So this is the speech. Also, we see that we faced a deregulation of labor market with a lot of flexibility, increasing precariousness in employment. So this is also important to have in mind for this work. And also this idea that the identity of each person is defined by their work. So this work-centric society versus also the structural unemployment for people in vulnerable situations. So with a lot of different kinds of characteristics. And our focus is on the social economy organizations that act as labor market integration support providers. historically, it's widely also studied that it's have an inadequate resources for street-level workers in public organization or in social economy organization. It's of course a human service worker that is very demanding for people that are working as support providers. And the paradigm is also in this individualized support, but okay, it's an individualized support, but with inadequate resources. So we can start to see that there is a paradox with this situation. And also a lot of those organizations are working with projects. So it's starting to be studied also the negative consequences of projectification. So for a very long time, working with projects, it was very studied with regarding the positive aspects of it. So to be more innovative, to boost also new ideas, to reach new outcomes. But now it's also starting to be studied with the negative consequences. So the precarious projectariat is also something that we can have in mind here. In Portugal,
Diana, sorry, we can see only the first slide now in your presentation, but you probably changed them.
Yes, I changed.
So maybe you can try once again to share.
Yeah. So I'm in the third one actually. No, nothing changed.
No, nothing changed now.
Oh, sorry. Let's try in another.
Let's try once again to share.
Yeah. Sorry. So. And now?
Okay, now we see just your screen, but not slides. Yes.
Oh, okay. So we will not manage to do it like this. Sorry. Usually it's very easy, so I don't know why it's not working. Okay, so maybe I will ask you to share, even if it's not the last version, it's not.
Okay, I can share, and then you can just set for me when I should turn to another slide. Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, I will try to share. Just a minute.
Yeah. So I was in the third one, actually. Yeah.
You see now, yes?
Yes, it's the first one. Second, yeah, perfect.
Okay.
It's this one. Yes.
Okay.
So I was saying on the right of this slide that the context in Portugal with the social economy is that, of course, the social economy is widely recognized in the international and also the European level. And also we can see an affirmation of this sector in Portugal also. So we can see that there is more and more social economy organizations, but we have this tradition of charity, also really close to the church. And we can see that there is an increase of not only the number of social economy organizations, but also the weight of it in the employment and as an economic sector also. And as for other countries also, those organizations mostly worked as with holistic services as they act as public sector providers. What I want to mean with that is in Portugal, those organizations can have a special status that allow them to have a contract with the state in order to provide some social services that are not provided by the state itself. So it's like an arm, you know, to provide those kind of services. So those providers that I'm studying, they work in this special status sector. Okay, next slide, please. So this is the paradoxes in Portugal, and this is the starting point also for the sector and to understand the policies, because what I bring here to you for this discussion, it's like a micro level empirical study, but of course it starts from this macro level, the policies itself. So there is a recognition of the field. Not only the social economy field, but also the need to have more decent and inclusive work for those that are far away from the labor market, that are unemployed for several years. So what we call people with complex needs. Also, this recognition, it's at international, European, and also national level, but in the other part of this balance, we have a lack of this formal field, a lack of training, specialized training for those providers. So it's not a profession recognized as it. It's just an occupation, a function that mostly social workers have plus of their jobs. Actually, so some inadequate devices, several studies have also shown that. And in Portugal, it's a very specific situation because we had from several years specific policies, the WISE policy, Work Integration Social Enterprise, that maybe you have also in your countries. But in Portugal, since 2015, it finished because of, you know, the crisis, but now we have nothing else to do this kind of job. And we don't have also these umbrella organizations that could give some orientation for those providers, and a very limited scientific production. So next slide, please. The methodological approach is that we have a very qualitative study with 9 case studies from people that are working in 9 different social economy organizations that provide this support in order to have the labor integration of those people in vulnerable situations. It's also exploratory because if there is not so much literature on this topic, of course, we had to create a lot of things. And also our question, the general research questions, is which are the challenges and dilemmas faced by those providers in those organizations in particular. So, okay, you can, yeah, next slide, please. So I will now just present briefly, just for you to be aware of what are those 9 case studies. So yes, next slide. So sometimes, a lot of times, the social economy organization, as I told before, is an organization that provide different kinds of services, social services as a whole, that are working with children, with old people, with a lot of different kind of target groups, and also with these people that are trying to reach the labor market. So the case study is mostly a small part of the bigger organization. They work with different kinds of target groups, so people with disabilities, people with an unemployed situation from several years, at risk of social exclusion. Some of them work with different kinds of target groups that have different kinds of needs, and also with mental illness. Yes, next slide, please. The target group profiles are very also heterogeneous, very different, and it's not so easy to try to understand. I just put what are the target groups, like administrative categorization, but of course it's very much more complex than that. So they are very people that are low self-esteem, a negative self-image of themselves, of the labor market, of those services, those providers, because they are in several years working with training and never reaching the labor market. As for sure you know this kind of target groups. Yes, next slide, please. So I categorized those challenges in 4 main groups. And I can present in next slides each one of them. So the next slide, it's easier. Yeah, next, yes. So this lengthy, complex, and non-linear work with the clients. So you know that it's a very, how to say it, it's a time-consuming, a lot of time-consuming, because working with these people, it's not linear. So you don't work and everything is getting better and better and reaching or be closer from the labor market. No, sometimes something happened and this situation that it's not so stable change very easily. So these multi-faceted challenges with each individuals, it's one of the biggest challenges that all the 9 case studies report, actually. So also people that don't believe in themselves, or they are very blocked in their own expectations. So it's not, sometimes it's not like in a month or 2 or a year that you can, you know, cut with what are like 20 years of those kind of repetition from themselves. Yes, next slide. Second group of challenges are these inadequate resources available. So as I told you, most of those providers, those professionals are working as social workers. And so they are working in the housing, the health situation and everything, and also the unemployment situation. So they have to be very, you know, expert in the different kinds of topics. And also they don't have those kinds of time. And also the most inadequate resources, it's actually the human resources that are needed to work with this these clients. And that's it. Also, the short-term needs can significantly impact long-term investment strategies. So it's not so, sometimes you cannot see the, you know, the change. The changes are like small things, and this from the people, the organizations, the public organizations that are founding the services, sometimes it's not so easy to show. Yes, next slide. This lack of orientation and specialization from those providers, there is no, absolutely not a training, a specialized training, not at the university, but not also at the other kind of training courses. There are no guidelines for this kind of work, so people are working like, you know, learning by doing, but it's not a specific field. So it's not recognized as a field, and those professionals are working, you know, as social workers mainly. So this is a gap in terms of training responses. Sometimes there are some small trainings, but it's always the same trainers. It's what our interviewed said. And also this idea that, okay, they are trying to do something new, something that doesn't exist. So they could really need this kind of guidelines. Yes, next slide. So the last category is this unregulated labor market and not suitable for those kinds of clients, and also that employers have a lot of ideas regarding those clients. So I told in the beginning that the paradigm is now this diversity management, but what we can see in practice with the employers is that these employers are not very aware of working with those kind of clients, of kind of people, and you know, this idea of okay, to try to have diverse teams versus also to try to just manage the business itself. So it's not very easy to manage. And also this mismatch of the labor market, mostly for migrants and homeless people, and this is something very difficult, working with the employers that are not very aware of those kind of what could be an interesting part for the teams to have also those people in their organizations. Yes. So final remarks. We found with our studies some results that are in line with the literature. So these inadequate resources, the human services workers for sure, this individualized support paradigm, all of those professionals mention it very much. What are the paradoxes or something that are quite different? This paradigm of diversity management versus something that are more traditionals, and also these employers' prejudices. And also what we found that was quite different from what we have learned in the literature, it was these negative consequences of the working with by projects. Because sometimes, or most of the times, those are not really projects, they are like fake projects, because it's project after project after project in order to solve a structural problem that is this unemployment, this structural unemployment. So they never, those professionals never talk about how this project work is bad for themselves, because they don't have stability in their contract, but they are always talking about how it is not good for the clients themselves, because we have funding for 2 years project and then the project finished, and of course the problem is not solved. So working by project for solving structural problems, it doesn't seem very good idea. So that's it that I wanted to share with you. I have my email in the last slide, and of course if you want anything else or any question, I don't know if it was 15 minutes or 20, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna, for your interesting and very relevant presentation. And now we have some time for short discussion, for questions. And I see that Ulrich raised his hand, so you can ask.
Thanks, Anna, for your presentation. It was interesting, and I have a question. If you have, what would be your policy recommendation? What should be changed in order to make the situation better? And you said sometimes these progresses of these projects for the clients are hard to measure, even though these institutions who fund these projects want to see progress. And maybe it's because I'm from some kind of these institutions. Do you see? Do you see? Do you have any measures how these projects show results or not? Or is there some empirical evidence? Thank you.
Yes. So thank you very much for your question. It's also a good opportunity to go further in the presentation. So regarding the policy recommendation, absolutely the most that I can say is that we really need a specific policy regarding, the labor market integration for those people. We don't have one. So what those professionals do is that they are trying to work, in the not really in the specific core of the policy, but in the other parts that are trying to work with that. So we really need it. We had one that was not perfect, this WISE measure, but it was better than nothing, and now it's very nothing. What we have, it's only training, but training is not work. Those clients are sick of being in training and more training and more training and ending in absolutely no inclusion in the labor market. So I think a very specific policy measure for work integration of these people, and not only social integration. So this for sure. And regarding the second part, what they have to report to the founders is just how many sessions they had with each client, how many training they attend, how many interviews they get. So that's it. Absolutely nothing regarding, for instance, that they are very working on that, on how to improve the self-esteem of these people, on also the self-determination, that they are be able to really know what they want and what they don't want. So this is something more, this what we call those soft indicators, but those soft indicators are absolutely not asked. And even those providers, they are always saying, yes, we see a lot of difference in this person, but what we just say to our founders is, okay, he didn't reach a job yet. So it's like we did nothing with him, and that's not true. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question.
Okay, thank you, Anna, for your very good answer. So another questions? No? Okay, so thank you, and warm greetings from Vilnius to you, to Portugal.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And now I see that we have also Besnik Fetahu. He's back to our session. Yes?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I'm very happy to see you here, and Besnik Fetahu University of Prishtina, and we will hear about the impact of Kosovo government subsidies on improving living conditions, correlative analysis. So the floor is yours, and you can start.
Okay, should I put my presentation here from my laptop, or
yes, if you can, you can do it.
Okay, perfect. Just a minute. Is it okay?
Yes. So we can see not your presentation, but just your screen.
Now? Is it? Can you see it?
Now we just see your screen.
You see just your mail account.
Maybe you can just change to your presentation and.
Okay, let me do it again. Is it okay now?
No, so maybe I will share your slides and you just will say for me when I should turn it. Okay?
Perfect.
Just a minute. Okay, can you see it?
Now, yeah, now I see it.
Okay, so you just say for me when I...
Okay, so my presentation is regarding the impact of Kosovo government subsidies on improving living conditions. We have tried to do a correlative analysis between some variables. But before going to tell you the motivation of this presentation, let me introduce myself. I am Besnik Fetahu. I am a professor at the University of Prishtina. At the Faculty of Philosophy, Department of Social Work. More than 10 years I'm engaged in that institution. Also, I am also as a political advisor at the Ministry of Finance, the government of Kosovo, more than 2 years, and trying to be more familiar with this kind of topics that I'm going to present to you. And the next slide, the motivation of this presentation is to explore the effects of Kosovo's fiscal policy interventions, especially subsidies in the context of improving the standard of living of citizens, trying to draw on a methodological approach. We aim to provide a data-driven perspective that explain the complex relationships between fiscal policies and social welfare. Before showing the results, I would like also to give some feedback, some introduction regarding the Kosovo. As maybe you know, the Kosovo has the parliamentary system, a strong one, and has demonstrated a significant political and economic development since the year 2021. Actually, its governance is characterized by a social democratic orientation for the first time, because before it was more oriented in liberal orientation. The government has focused its activities on expanding the state's influence in regulating social and economic issues. We will show it more in the following slides that more than 20% of the budget is allocated for social needs. Actually, the policies undertaken include reforms in the pension system and the social systems, trying to improve also the taxing policies and investment in the development of infrastructure for solar energy and other sources of clean energy. But despite this, the government has also faced it with criticism from, especially from a political right spectrum, who argue that this model spends considerable amounts of public budget in sectors that do not generate long-term revenues. So they express concern that this approach, primarily supported by subsidies and social transfers, does not contribute to sustainable well-being and causes a slow pace of economic development in general terms. But nevertheless, during this 2-year period from 2001 till this year, 2023, Kosovo has recorded a series of significant economic achievements. For example, in 2021, the country registered an economic growth of more than 10%, which also moderated to 3.5% in 2023. This is regarding the crisis in Ukraine and also in the Western Balkan and also in different places, for example, lately in the Middle East. The state also observed an increase in the number of job positions, reaching over more than 400,000 active employment positions, and also a rise in GDP per capita of 1.5% per year. And historically, now we have a total budget of 3.2 billion euro. So these are economic indicators that illustrate relatively strong performance despite the challenges and criticism that are present now. I would like also to give some general statistic regarding the Kosovo. Kosovo has 1.7 million of population, and the GDP per capita in 2022 was more than $5,000. It is increased by 1.5% from 2021, which is very sustainable. The unemployment in 2022 was 11%, poverty rate is 23%, and the state budget, as we have said before, it is 3.2 billion euros. Actually, the citizens of Kosovo are facing with different social challenges and problems and political issues. For example, security and political tensions in the north part of the country, which is mainly inhabited with Serbian minority community. Also, we are facing with economic development and employment, especially because of the crisis in Ukraine, and also some clashes in the Western Balkan, mainly between Kosovo and Serbian minority in the north. And also we are facing with raising the numbers of poverty and unemployment due to the inflation that is recording the crisis in the European continent. But how it is the nature of social spending in Kosovo? Before, as you know, Kosovo was part of federal state, ex-Yugoslavia, and together with other federal unit has it integrated system of subsidies. But after the war, we are facing with a strong reconstruction and foreign assistance and the privatization process that was not very well done, and low foreign investment in the coming year, and trying to buy some social peace. I have called it social peace because Kosovo was facing with different social groups trying to receive and by requesting some beneficial from the state budget. So this was very challenges from 23 until 2023 year of behaving as a separate or as an independent country. The nature of expenditure, I don't know, can you see it on the table that I have put it here? For the 2023, actually Kosovo has allocated a lot of money, more than 20% of this own budget in different social schemes, and also pension schemes that are rising by year. For example, for the basic social pension, we have rising the numbers for the 2024, but also we have measuring some different economic supporting program by giving employment services and vocational training services, and also some energy contingency that we have received from European Union to somehow measure this request, also the high number of expenses, and also the potential need for the request of the energy that the citizen may have it. Why is the importance of this topic that we are dealing in the context of economic challenges that we are facing, that include the high inflation and also the energy crisis in Kosovo? The government has taken important actions through the application of subsidies for citizens during the years 2022 and 2023. For example, we have used more than 100 million euro from the state budget for the year 2022, and also an additional of 75 million euro in the form of the grant from the European Union have been indeed to ease the financial burden from the higher energy prices. And also to combat inflation, the government has implemented the sale and prices law for basic items during the 2022. The purpose of the work first is to understand the effects of subsidies on Kosovo's economy and society. It's very essential to assess the effectiveness of government interventions and also to guide future policies. The second is for decision makers, because detailed analysis of the impact of subsidies can provide insights into the optimization of public spending, ensuring that funds are used in the most effective way to stimulate economic growth and also fighting poverty and reduce the consequence of the energy crisis. And the third one is for citizens, by understanding the benefits of subsidies that helps determine the sustainability of policies and also evaluate their governance. This is also important for transparency and accountability in a democracy, and also ensures the citizens are informed and very active in the decision-making process. The problem identification, we have put here that poverty and unemployment or the high cost of living affect the citizens of Kosovo despite the government's efforts to help through subsidies. Actually, the implications of poverty, unemployment, and high living conditions are far-reaching and affect the daily lives of Kosovo citizens in various ways. Poverty can limit access to basic needs such as food and healthcare, while unemployment increases dependency on social assistance and also reduces the opportunity for personal and professional development. Also, high living costs can force families to make difficult financial choices, which may include cutting back on consumption or not being able to afford health and education expenses. This we're going to see on the next slides. In the local economy, reduced consumption negatively affects businesses and can slow economic growth. In social terms, these challenges can increase tensions and limit social cohesion, making it more difficult to develop an equal and stable society. And the research question is, what is the impact of subsidies of the government of Kosovo on improving the living conditions of the citizens? By studying the impact of subsidies, we can contribute to theories of development and social welfare. From a practical perspective, the analysis of the impact of subsidies provides important data to decision makers, which can help them design better policies, allocate more resources more efficiently, and improve economic sustainability and also the well-being of the citizens. The methodology in our research, we have applied a correlation analysis to measure the relationship between government subsidies and also the improvement of the living conditions of citizens in Kosovo. Data selection was based on official figures from the government agencies and also international reports on subsidies and social economic indicators. Data were mainly collected through the budget survey of family economies, covers all family economies in the territory of the Republic of Kosovo, regardless of their size or socioeconomic characteristics. And also through the household budget survey, it is indeed to measure the consumption, expenses, and also the income of households. The households budget survey in 2022 includes a sample of more than 2,000 households. And also we have used the technique of Pearson correlation because it was mainly chosen as the analytical tool because of its ability to identify the strength and also the direction of the linear relationship between continuous variables. And this technique is very useful for proving whether an increase in government subsidies has been accompanied by an improvement in the living conditions. However, a possible methodological limitation is also here present, because that correlation does not imply causality, and that the influence of other external factors cannot be completely excluded. In the slide regarding the results and discussion, here we have some graphicons. For example, at least since the 2003, households in Kosovo have spent more money on food than on housing, but the difference has never been greater than last year. In 2022, consumption expenses for a family economy were more than 8,000 euro, while in 2021 it was more than 5,000 euro. Also here we can see that apart from some minor differences, Kosovars have bought similar products over the years. Bread and meat have taken up most of their annual food budget, but inflation and the rising food prices have meant that for the first time since at least 2003, more than 50% of the budget is spent on food. From 2003 to 2020, the percentage of the household budget allocated to the purchase of food items has increased by 15%, and even bigger difference is observed in the expenses for transport, which have increased by 75% and also held by 200%. From the results of the person correlation analysis, we have shown and give and receive a strong and direct relation between the government subsidies and the number of citizen beneficiaries, with a correlation coefficient of 1, implying the perfect positive correlation. This shows that with the increase in subsidies, the number of beneficiaries also increases. We also have here that is a perfect negative correlation between government subsidies and also an electric consumption, indicating that as subsidies increase, there is a decrease in electricity consumption, which may imply efficiency in energy use as a result of the interventional governmental. The study found a strong correlation between subsidies and the number of beneficiaries, implying that an increase in subsidies is accompanied by an increase in the number of beneficiaries. The low energy consumption suggests that the subsidies have influenced more efficient use of energy, and the results also can guide that the policies of the government of Kosovo to optimize the distribution of subsidies, making them more effective. The study also provides a basis for target policies that address the specific needs of citizens and can help implement more focused interventions to support citizens in sustainable ways. Thank you very much, and I'm also ready for any question from your side.
Okay, thank you very much, Besnik, for your presentation about Kosovo and the situation in your country. It was very interesting. Maybe we have some questions from online participants or from those who are here. Okay, of course. Please come here.
Thank you for your presentation. If I were right that you were showing the new budgets and social policy expenses were doubled. So what has happened? Have you done some change here, or what are the reasons for that? What is the situation?
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we going to use also from Mr. Brandt the question? Or should I give the answer right now?
You can answer now for this question, and then
there was different factors that the government has decided to double social spending because of the crisis in Ukraine, crisis with energy, and also the high scale of inflation in 2022. It was nearly 17% in Kosovo. And as maybe you know, the poverty rate before it was very high at the Kosovo. Mainly some different social groups were targeted. For example, minority groups were targeted to give some support, and also the groups that are receiving some social assistance. And we have decided as a government to double to manage those crises that are reflecting from the Ukraine and also from different parts.
okay, thank you. And Ulrich, to ask.
Thanks, Besnik, for your presentation. I have one question regarding the budget structure. If I thought correctly, that there's a high proportion of pension spending within the budget, but I'm really not an expert on Kosovo. I thought that the population of Kosovo is relatively young internationally compared. Maybe this leads to far away, but how does these budget items come together? And the other question is, you said that some when the social budget was expanded, some special groups were eligible for these programs and some were not, if I understood it correctly. So maybe this would be, maybe you would have kind of control group and some group which were eligible for these programs, so you could make more like a causal analysis. I'm not sure if I understood it correctly, that only specific groups received these transfers. Maybe you could clarify.
Okay. For the first question, we have some different categories regarding the pensions system. Receiving the pensions, not only the elderly people, but also veterans, invalids, and families of veterans. So we have different categories in the pension system. Now what we are trying, this year we have made an agreement with the World Bank, trying to reform the system of pensions here in our country, trying to make one integrated database by evidencing who is receiving funds from the state and maybe excluded those that are receiving from different categories in a simultaneous way. So we are trying to mix these errors that we have currently in our systems and trying to improve and to have as an integrated database for all citizens in Kosovo, because we wanted to the number decrease for the different categories in pensions receiving. For example, right now the law, it is allowed that elderly citizen that can receive the basic social pension, but also if he was the veteran, he can also receive another pension. So we are mixing to exclude those examples in the future. And the third one, regarding the group that are liable for the different social assistance, it was, am I correct? For your question, the third one?
My idea was, if I stood it correctly, specific groups received specific social subsidies. And if this would be the case, you could make a causal analysis with a treatment and a control group, like to have more robust empirical analysis of the evidence, how these subsidies are working, or what's,
Actually, in the bottom line of poverty, there are some communities ethnic communities, for example, Roma community, and we are trying from the different programs to include them. And also we have some specific group regarding the for gender issues, for example, women that are not very supported or engaged in employment, and also in the position of decision making. So we are targeting those groups to give very strong support for their involvement in the society.
Okay, thank you very much, Besnik, for your very interesting experience and very interesting facts about Kosovo and social policy in your country. Thank you once again. And now I see that Bogusława Urbaniak also joined us. I thought that you are not here when we start our session, but
yes,
now we can see you.
Yes, good afternoon to everybody. I'm present and I'm ready. So we can start with my presentation.
Yes, exactly. So your presentation is about development of the social economy in the Lodz region in Poland. Yes?
Yes.
So can you share your slides or should I do it?
It will be better if you do it, and I will see at my computer and I will follow.
Okay, just a minute.
Yes.
Okay, you can see your slides. Yes.
Yes. That's it's okay.
You can start. So you just say for me when I should turn another slide. Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So welcome once more. I decided to draw your attention to the social economy as, in my opinion, is the very good solution for all social problems. I have heard the last presentation concerning Kosovo problems, and maybe social economy, I will talk about that, will be a good example what you might do in your country to improve the situation. Social economy is developing quickly in Poland. The best evidence of this development has been provided by the laws published on national level. So when I take under consideration the local level, I would like to show you how it is developing in which region. Can I see the next? Which region or province of Łódź is situated in the middle of the country. It's in the middle of the country. So it is inhabited mainly by older people. When we take under consideration the number of persons aged 65 and over per 100 persons aged 0-14, this evidence is placed on the second place among the regions with the most advanced aging processes in the country. What does it mean? 155 older persons, that means 65 and more, per 100 those at age 0-14. This is the last data, as you see, June of 2023. So this is very important because social economy is developing on the local level in that type of province, which is from the demographic point of view old. Next, please. What does it mean when we talk about the social economy? Social economy, that is an activity for social and professional reintegration of people at risk of exclusion. at risk of exclusion. It might be, for example, unemployment. It might be, for example, bad finance situation, migrants as well. So that is why in last period we see a lot of interest connected with the development of social economy. I gave you the information about 3 laws, for example, National Program for the Development of the Social Economy up to 2020. It is called Social Solidarity Economy. Next is the Social Economy Act of the August 2022 and Solidarity Fund Act. So that means that the whole country, the government of the country, take under consideration that this is very important economic activity as well. Next, please. So, key entities for the social economy are social economy entities. They act for the benefit of the local community. What they offer? They can create jobs for people at risk of social exclusion. They offer provision of social services and, of course, a lot of activities connected with the social and professional reintegration of different people who are at risk of marginalization. We can divide these social economy entities into 2 groups. There are social enterprises, foundations, social corporations, non-profit companies, and associations. And besides that group, social enterprises, there are various types of reintegration units, but I put them aside because they are clearly connected with different type of activities. Next, please. Let's take under consideration social economy entities in the province of Lodz. So as you observe, they operate in big cities and in villages as well. So that means that population, this aging population, is active in social economy in big, medium, small, and villages, big sites. Of course, we should ask about the finance. So percentage of organization with the following sources of funding, that is 65, 63, 63. Most of the fundings come from the national public fundings, membership fees, but as you see, individual and institutional philanthropy, 1% citizens tax deduction, we have this law, and their own paid and economic activity, 23 organizations, social economic entities, they earn money because they perform paid and economic activity. Of course, they have own sets, they get support from other NGOs, and 11 foreign public funding, mostly from the national public funding, but what is important, their own activity. Next, please. When we take under consideration the funds at their disposal, mostly these are national public fundings. This is the blue part of this circle. The next 15 paid and economic activities, as well foreign public funding, individual and institutional philanthropy. So we can say mostly they offer their services because they can be act individually thanks to the public funding, foreign public funding, and philanthropy and paid and economic activities of these entities. Next, please. In 2021, we had in Poland 2,190 social enterprises. In Łódź province, 126, that is 5.5% of the whole number of the social enterprises in the country. Where they operate? Mostly they operate in education and culture, almost 42%, catering, 20%, utilities such as cleaning and others, 18.7%, health and beauty. So thanks to that, they can obtain own sources, and thanks to the activity, mainly people who are aged, they obtain possibility to help other people who are at risk of marginalization. I give you one example of social enterprise which is operating in my city, in city of Łódź. This is social cooperative. It is named Łódzka Szansa. It is established by Professor Janowska. She was a long-time councillor and former senator. Next, please. So, case study. This social cooperative is a place of employment for socially excluded people. Whom they are? Long-term unemployed, with low professional qualifications. That is why people who are long-term unemployed with low professional qualifications, they are absolutely impossible to find another jobs in the labor market without any assistance. So this is a good possibility to give them a hand and to be active, professional active, and help other people. And of course, seniors who are neighbors from the area where Łódzka Szansa is located. It runs a modest catering operation. It is called Obiad dla Seniora, lunch for seniors. For small money, this social cooperative offer lunches for seniors who live in neighborhood. So on the left hand, that is the post of the Łódzka Szansa. So you can find out that this is a good solution for those who have no money for food, who is ill and has in financial troubles. Next, please. With the outbreak of war in Ukraine, thousands of refugee women with young children have flown to Poland. In these times, Łódzka Szansa, this example of social cooperative, decided to offer them the place to stay daily for several hours and learn. For women with young children, only for that group of women. So what they decided to offer? Polish language learning, securing childcare assistance for children at age 1 until 5, free meal service 5 times a week, and a 6th meal taken home, recreation and psychological support and labor market workshops. Of course, they have to ask for money. Next, please.
Yeah, Bogusława, 5 minutes left for you, okay?
Yes, next,
okay.
Please.
Okay.
So they opened the project Opportunity for Ukraine Mothers. It started in April 2022. Where did the cooperative get its funding from? This is the most important because they offer a lot of services, but they have to find out money for that. At first, this social cooperative decided to ask local community via press, radio, social media. So at first they gathered contributions from individuals, entrepreneurs, and professional organizations. Now the cooperative cooperates with the Association Polska Misja Medyczna and Polish Red Cross. So far, the cooperative has taken in 3 groups of Ukrainian women at age 25-35, a total of 30 mothers and 30 children. Next, please. Conclusions. I gave you this example because I would like to underline that sometimes in very bad situation we can improve this situation thanks to our own activity. So social economy units are a permanent feature of civil society in regions, complementing the public sector and the market sector. This is another sector, and it is growing in importance. They have become a permanent feature of local social action in the province of Łódź, as in the other provinces in the country. So there are a lot of activities. I gave you another one. Another example, this cooperative provides accounting and bookkeeping services, tax consultancies, and this is social economy entity as well. This year, like every year, local economy entities took part in Lodz Social Economy Fair. So we had special fair in autumn, in September. It is organized locally, and social economy entities can present their achievements. Next, please. So, if you have any questions, I am ready to answer. So the aim of my presentation was to show that sometimes, thanks to our own activity, we can solve, of course, not all problems, but try to solve the problems which are typical for the market economy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Bogusława. It was very interesting experience from your region, from Poland. And we have time only for one question. And Anna raised her hand, so please.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation and for sharing this view of the social economy, the relevance of this sector. So my question is quite simple. It's just to be sure that I understood it right. So you have a legal status for the social enterprises. So there is the legal status for social economy and a specific one for social enterprises, yeah? And in this legal status, the social enterprise has to employ people in vulnerable situations.
So they have right to employ and people who want to assist as a volunteer.
Okay.
So only small number of the social entities decided to employ people. Why? Because we have good situation in the labor market at the moment. So only people who are at risk of marginalization can ask for help and for the jobs. Other people are free to, and they can find very quickly better jobs than offered by the social economy entities.
Okay, so these people that are employed in the social enterprises, those who are in risk of exclusion, yes, they have a regular job contract.
Yes, okay. But of course, these social entities, they can choose how many people they need. So sometimes there are only few of the workers.
Course. Thank you very much.
But they have right. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for interesting question. And now we are moving to the last presentation, and thank you, Ulrich, for your patience. And you will present the work about financial crisis, confidence in financial markets, and participation in private pension plans in Germany. So you can
Do you see
start.
my slides, or do you also see my notes now?
Yes, now it is successful and we see your slides.
Okay, so I would like to start. Thanks for the invitation that I can present our paper here. My name is Ulrich Brandt. I work at the German pension insurance based in Berlin. And the paper Financial Crisis, Confidence in Financial Markets and Participation in Private Pension Plans in Germany is a joint work with my colleagues Dagmar, Zanker and Dina Frommert, and we all work together at the Department for Research and Development. So let's start with our motivation and our research question. The starting point for our analysis was that the financial crisis in 2008 and 2009 led to the biggest economic decline in economic activity in the post-war history in Germany until the recent COVID-19 crisis. And at the same time, the old age security system in Germany was switched to a multi-pillar pension system so that private pension schemes were introduced in the old age security system. And this switch to the multi-pillar pension system, after this switch, two aspects were relevant to meet adequate old age pensions in your old age. One thing is stable employment with social security contributions during your employment phase. And the second one is supplementary old age pension provisions, which would include voluntary purchase, capital market-based old age pension provisions. So these were the two big things. And our question was, how did the financial crisis had an impact on the pension situation in Germany? If we look at the first dimension, the stable employment with social security contributions, we see that the financial crisis only had a low impact on employment and unemployment. Some researchers framed this as the German labor market miracle because GDP almost declined by 6%, whereas employment was relatively stable. But however, due to the switch to the multi-pillar system, it is possible that future pension gaps may arise due to a loss of confidence in financial markets, which was caused by the financial crisis, which would lead to a general skeptical view on capital market-based old age pension provisions. And if people do not purchase these private pension schemes, then this would lead to future pension gaps. So our question is, did the financial crisis had an impact on the purchase of voluntary private pension plans? And we just look on the so-called Riester pension plans because these were the most dynamic form of private pension plans in the recent years. So on the next slide, I want to take a brief look on the political background and the institutional changes in the framework of old age security which took place. There was a broad discussion since the 1990s, major debates in media about the future financial sustainability of the pay-as-you-go statutory pension insurance. These discussions were due to the concerns about the demographic change. Many more and more older people in Germany. So this discussion was there, and at the same time, the mindset was promoted that people should participate in higher returns on financial markets. And this taken together led to major reforms in 2001, 4, and 7, and the role of financial markets in providing adequate standards of living in the old age was expanded. So the so-called Riester contracts, Riester pensions, were introduced in 2001, and these state-subsidized private old age pension schemes should compensate for the reduced levels of the benefits in the statutory pension insurance. These are voluntary private pension plans, and you also get state subsidies, a set bonus or tax benefits, which rely on the number of children you've got. So this was the change in the institutional framework. If we look on the impact of the financial crisis on the private retirement savings in Germany, we see, similar to the impact to the employment, that there only were minor losses or lower losses than expected in the field of funded old age provisions in Germany. Why is that? This can be explained due to the defensive investment structure. So the regulation of the Riester pension says that you have to invest in most of the time in safe assets. So the equity component is relatively low. And also the losses in the financial crisis were relatively low. For example, the general loss of private financial assets in the financial crisis was 8.5%, whereas the losses in actual old age provisions were only 3% in comparison. So this was due to the defensive investment structure. But we would argue that the financial crisis, even though the losses in these financial assets were relatively small, that the financial crisis made people aware of that they take risk when they invest in funded old age provisions. And these risks were previously turned a blind eye to. So now the people realized, if I invest in these private pension provisions, I take a risk. And we argue that not only the crisis affected the value of the retirement savings, but also, or probably that's our thesis, it changed the savings and investment behavior. So to understand this argument, I want to explain our theoretical considerations. We rely on the concept of trust, which was a concept which received a lot of attention after and during the financial crisis and in academic debates, especially in economic sociology. And it's often described as a bonding element in financial markets between saving and investment decisions. For example, investors withdrew their money from the Lehman Bank when they heard that, or there were rumors that the balance sheet is not right, and so they withdrew a lot of money, and then they got liquidity problems. So that's an example how trust works on financial markets. But trust is also a mechanism which reduces uncertainty. So investors or savers have to take action if they want to invest or save. And there's a lot of information around in the complex world. So they have to trust somebody who reduces this complexity in an uncertain world. And you don't have the overall information. So you look on signals. These signals can be annual reports, credit rating, or hearsay by third parties. These are called proxy signs in theory and by Svedberg. And these proxy signs are often within institutional arrangements. They reduce the complexity so that people can make decisions to invest or save. And our hypothesis is that these previous held beliefs on financial markets were shaken by the financial crisis, and that the expectations regarding the savings behavior was modified due to the crisis. So our hypothesis is that people took a step back, wait and see before they purchase new contracts of financial market-based pension provision plans. Our databases is a study LEA, which means life course and old age provisions. It is a representative survey conducted by the German Federal Pension Insurance and the German Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs. And it is a representative study of the birth cohorts between 1957 and 1976, which are the people who were in between 40 and 59 years old in 2016. All people living in households in Germany within this age cohort were the target population, and the interviews were conducted with computer-assisted personal interviews. One strength of the study is that on the one hand, we've got survey data where people are asked about pension information, employment history, migration experience, or socio-demographic information. But on the other hand, the survey data was linked with information from the pension insurance account information, which are really reliable because they're administrative data and they were combined. So we've got really reliable data. And with this data set, we made the analysis. Our net sample with all target persons includes 9,474 persons, but we only included the target persons and the core clientele of the statutory pension insurance. So, for example, we excluded public servants from our analysis because our core clientele, which is defined that they have entitlements in the statutory pension insurance but have no other entitlements in another first pillar security system. So only this clientele is in the analysis, which reduces our sample size to 4,800 people. And you see on the next slide that the regression technique we used reduced our sample size further to 834 persons. And in a second regression, we also include partner information that further reduces our regression. The time is running, so I have to be a little bit faster. I think we use the fixed effects conditional logit model, which means we have panel data. So we've got repeated observations for each person and every year. And the big advantage of this technique is that we can adjust our regression estimates for time invariant unobserved heterogeneity. For example, the affinity for pension planning, which was not asked or measured, but we can control for that. And the disadvantage of our regression technique is, unfortunately, that we can't estimate any effects for time invariant explanatory variables, for example, gender. But however, the effect of gender is controlled for, but we can't see it directly. So we chose the model, the logit model, because we've got a binary dependent variable, as you see on the next slide. I will jump to that, and we only interpret the results if the direction is positive, negative, or no correlation, but only the sign interpretation, not how big the size is, because it's not possible with this technique. Our dependent variable is if somebody purchased a Riester pension plan in that specific year, so it's one in that specific year, otherwise it's 0. And our main explanatory variable of the crisis are two variables: binary crisis, which is equal to 1 after 2008, and crisis linear, which counts the years after the crisis. There's a schematic representation what we try to capture with these two explanatory variables. So here we see the probability that somebody purchased a Riester pension plan, and this how would it look like if it didn't change at all? But in the first crisis binary effect would capture if there's a shock-like reaction in the purchase behavior of Riester pension plans, and the second explanatory variable, crisis linear, would capture if there is a delayed behavioral change after the financial crisis. I want to highlight that these results can't be interpreted causally, but only descriptively. So we can't say because of the financial crisis, the behavior changed. We only can say after the financial crisis, the behavior changed, because we don't have any control group whatsoever, because everyone was affected at the same time by the financial crisis. I think I will skip this one. These are the other explanatory variables. You also can see this in our paper and jump to the conclusion or to the regression table to see the results, because the time is running. Sorry for that. So here with number 1 and the red highlight, you see the first model without partner information, and here crisis and years after crisis are the core variables of interest in our analysis. And we see that this effect is not significant, so there's no immediate and permanent crisis effect on the purchase behavior of Riester pension plans. But what we see here is that years after crisis is significant, which means that the likelihood of purchasing Riester contracts decreases over time after the crisis, which would mean that more and more people are getting skeptical against these private capital market pension schemes. We also see that there's a positive correlation with the interest rate, and we also see that the probability of purchasing a Riester pension plan is higher when you also conclude a second or third pillar pension contract, which means that the other private pension plans and Riester plans are complements. So if somebody buys these other products, he also looks out, maybe Riester contracts are also relevant for me. And we also see that the birth of the first children also has a positive effect on purchasing a Riester pension plan, which shows that the subsidies are working, and because they rely on the number of children. In a second result, we also included the information about if the partner concluded a second or third pension scheme contract. Also there we see that there is like this kind of time delayed response to the crisis. So people are less and less, the probability declines in time that people purchase these Riester contracts after the financial crisis. And what we see is a really strong effect that if the partner concluded a private third pillar contract, also the target person in the regression has a higher probability to purchase a Riester pension plan. So we see some kind of network effects. So my conclusion is we don't see an immediate change in savings behavior after the financial crisis. Instead, we see more a gradually declining trend. So more and more people, or a higher percentage of people, get skeptical against these Riester pension plans. And this regression results are controlled for other independent variables. We further see that the probability of purchasing Riester pension plans is higher if somebody purchased also a contract in the second or third pillar pension scheme at the same year. And at the same time, we see some crowding in effect that, for example, if the partner purchased a voluntary pension scheme, then the probability that the person itself did that is also higher. Thanks for listening, and I be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, dear Ulrich. You are perfectly on time, and we even have some time for maybe one question. I don't know if we have from online participants or maybe here. Okay. Gal čia galite ateiti tada, kad jis matytų. Okay, we have one question from our professor.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question from outside of your research and presentation about another factor. We know that it was a very long period of low interest on bonds, even zero interest rate on bonds. Do you know, maybe from statistics or from mass media, any impact of this factor on savings for pensions?
Yes, so we included all that was due to the time constraint which I had, but that's why I shifted the slide with the explanatory variables. And there you see that we also integrated the interest rate, which is not the interest rate for bonds, but it's a similar one which is in the regulation for pension products and contracts. So yes, we also controlled for the development of the interest rate, which was declining throughout the whole period. And was nearly zero, yes.
Okay. Any questions? No. So thank you very much for all our participants, for all our presentation, and for all our short discussions. So best regards for you from Vilnius University to your countries. Thank you. And I would like to say goodbye now for you and hope to see you in the future conferences. And thank you very much for our audience. And let's turn to our conclusion session. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.